So I'm in conversation with Martin Tugwell, the Programme Director of England's Economic Heartland, who's just spoken to JPLC on the renaissance of strategic planning. You talked, Martin, about this being your third iteration of regional planning. Why do you think it keeps coming back, and what have you learnt, from phase 3 of this work?
Well, I think it comes back because intuitively we understand that there are some things where we need to work at scale, a scale bigger than the local, but smaller than the national. And that's why we keep coming back to it in different incarnations. I think what we're learning this time out is that the one question we've never really answered before is how do we improve delivery? How do we improve delivery of infrastructure to support planned growth? And that's what we're trying to tackle this time out.
And one of the things you raised, which was also touched on in earlier presentations, was the difficulty that local plan preparation has of the impact of transformational projects or infrastructure planning, which is on a different time frame. How are you grappling with that issue in the Heartland and your local authority constituent members?
Well, I think it's about clarity. We talk about having clarity of what we're trying to achieve so that we can give confidence to the local planning authorities that they can take these things into account. So if we're going to do a piece of transformational infrastructure, like East West Rail, which is one of the projects we're promoting, if people have an understanding of where it will be and when it will be coming, they can take that into account into their plan preparation. Because what we're seeing is that there are some parts of the region where they are up for growth, but they want to have confidence that the infrastructure will be there, and other areas where they perhaps looking to protect the environment a bit more. Again, if you know what's happening and where the key infrastructure projects are going to be taking place, you'll have the ability to plan with more certainty at a local level.
You were very clear that a lot of what you think needs to be done can be done within the existing tools and frameworks, but you did make a big pitch for a national policy statement for your subnational area, and there were questions and discussion on that. Can you tell us a bit more about why you think that's the big thing that would make a difference for you?
It's three things as to why it's important. First of all, we need to make the need for investment in infrastructure much clearer earlier in the process. If people understand that the case as to why we need to invest in highway infrastructure or digital infrastructure or utilities, it makes it easier for those who are going to deliver it to plan for it and take that through their own processes. We then need to be able to join it up. So we need to be making sure the investment in the utilities matches the investment in digital, matches the investment in transport to support the plans that are being set out at a local level. And thirdly, when we know we need to do something and when we've planned it, we need to accelerate its delivery. And there's a really good track record of national infrastructure projects now going through the development consent order process, and we've got a track record of being able to deliver it quickly once we've gone through those two stages of getting the need and getting the alignment.
I think that leads on really to another question that you received, and that was about the implications of housing delivery and your work. What do you think you can do to help address the national housing crisis by the collaborative work you're doing in the England Economic Heartland?
I think, again, it comes back to this point about infrastructure, having the certainty around infrastructure, the clarity of what we need to do, but equally recognising that we need to talk not just to the government in terms of investment by the public sector, but we need to think about the opportunities that this ambition for the region provides for investment from the private sector. If you've got an internationally well-recognised brand, Oxford and Cambridge, the potential for investors to want to be part of that is very clear. What they're looking for is they're looking for confidence that if we start on this journey together, it's going to be one we're going to carry on for 10, 20, 30 years and not one that's going to be abandoned halfway through.
You talked as well about health and health issues going right up the political agenda for the politicians involved in your work. and it therefore influencing how you were thinking collectively about working together. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Absolutely. One of the drivers for the work we're doing is how do we use the catalyst from the government's industrial strategy to actually help economic growth and help reduce the environmental impact. If we think about ageing population, it's one of those grand challenges. So understanding how technology can help support people living longer, helping them live in their existing property for a longer time, having a better quality of life, reducing the impact on the social and health costs. There is an opportunity here to join it up in a way that we haven't done before. That's the kind of advantage you get with strategic planning.
One question you received was about the question of pace. Is this an iteration of regional planning going faster or slower than previous iterations? Can you tell us about how you're going to deliver at pace, because the challenges you're facing are now as well as in the future?
It's a really good point, and I think because the driver here has been around collaborative approaches to strategic planning, it's taken time to get the foundations laid. Once we've got those foundations laid, we can accelerate our own thinking and our own proposals. So I think after 5 years, we've got some really strong foundations on which we can build. We've just recently, as a Heartland, published our outline transport strategy. We're working on our investment strategy. These documents will start coming together in the next 12 months. So in 12 months' time, at the next conference, we're going to see quite a dramatic change, I think.
And how are you finding government in all its guises is responding to your work?
I think government finds it challenging sometimes, if I'm honest. Challenging because they struggle sometimes to understand that a political commitment to work collaboratively is a very powerful commitment. It brings people's capital, their own personal commitment to actually a shared endeavour. So I think that's one of the things that we can help government. I think what's positive is the fact that government recognises this is a region, the Heartland is a region where there are great opportunities and great potential, and realising that potential for the benefit not just of the region's residents and businesses, but for the UK as a whole, gives us a credibility within government that we need to build upon.
There was an interesting question by a delegate from Sheffield about what was going on in this area of work outside the South East. You were talking about your area. Can you tell us a bit more about the collaborative work between the different strategic planning bodies that are working across the UK at the moment?
So there are 7 regional bodies across England, and we do work together, have worked together for the last 2 or 3 years. And what we need to do is use the work that we're doing at a regional level to make the case nationally for more investment in infrastructure and services. As a country, we don't make enough investment. If we're going to realise the ambition for the economy and for individual residents, we need to provide the infrastructure and services. So collectively, making the case as to why this is important will make the case for the investment and will help deliver.
And finally, you repeatedly went back to the issue of capacity and skills, gaps based on years when there's been little or no regional planning. What would your recommendation be to a delegate or somebody listening to this podcast who's interested in this area? Where would they look for more information? Where might they go to develop skills and experience and get into strategic planning?
So get in touch with the individual bodies themselves. We, England's Economic Heartland, are easily accessible. All of our work is done in the public domain, as indeed our colleagues in other regions. We need more talent. We need different talent. We need different perspectives to come into the strategic planning agenda. And we're starting to see that. And we see the benefits of it because it brings the focus onto what are we trying to achieve as an outcome rather than necessarily as a process.
Thank you.